Welcome to another episode designed to shake your mindset and create a breakthrough in your relationships. Today, we're peeling back the curtain to those who are invisible barriers that keep you stuck in your life so you can finally step into love and the love that you deserve. Sanaiyah, it's wonderful to have you on the show here. Please take a moment to say hello and tell listeners a little about yourself, who you are, and what lights your life up.
Oh, thank you so much, Stacey. First of all, thank you for having me on your show, on your podcast. So I am here to talk a little bit about love, which I think is the most important thing in all of our lives.
Mhm.
I've come from a background where love was something very difficult for me, very challenging, in and out of relationships, wondering if I would ever find the one, if love was something that would ever kind of work for me, because it seemed to work for everyone else. So that's kind of my story. I came from that background, and I discovered over the course of my own experiences that loving other people starts with loving yourself. And today I am a relationship reinvention coach. I'm a podcaster, I'm a keynote speaker, and I work with my clients either in group settings or one on one to help them literally just find the love of their life and go from single to in a relationship for life.
I love that. Now, to get us started, Sanaya, what inspired you to identify and explore these hidden love blocks, first of all?
Yeah. So I've been working with women, Stacey, for over 15 years. And I didn't mean to do this, but I think because of my own journey and just, what seemed to be kind of my own gift or superpower, I
Yeah.
seemed to attract a lot of women who were struggling with love, with their love lives. And of course, I have my own fair share of toxic relationships, and I have those ups and downs and heartbroken and all of that stuff behind me as well. But what was very interesting for me is that I seem to always attract women who needed to work on self-love and who were struggling in their relationships. And after working with me, we all seem to work on something else.
Yeah.
But after working with me, they would attract their soulmates. And they would come back and tell me, Sanaiyah, we did this work and we did that work. And you know what? After what we did, I ended up in the most amazing relationship ever. Or now I'm with the person I want to be with. And I remember thinking, wow, it's like we didn't quite set up for that, but everybody wants that. And that's kind of like the cherry on the icing, right? And as kind of time went on, I realized that this is something that seemed to be an outcome that consistently would happen. That when I would work with my clients with whatever were their relationship issues, their own self esteem challenges, their self worth, if I got them up to a point where they started to love themselves, accept themselves, and feel really good about themselves, they more often than not seem to attract the right partner into their lives. And what ended up happening, Stacey, and I'm kind of jumping the gun, but what
Mhm.
ended up happening is I had a podcast episode with, you could say, like the J Lo of the Philippines. Her name's
Yeah.
Ellen Adarna, and she was this beautiful girl, which is really bad luck with relationships. She's like an actress, a supermodel, all of these things. And on my podcast episode with her, she talked about being single and she's a single mom, and something just inspired me to ask her if I could do a soulmate manifestation with her, and I could see that she was ready for this.
Yeah.
And I did it live on the podcast, and like 2 months later she met this amazing guy who everybody knows. He's like one of the top actors as well, and they literally got married a couple of months later. And so that was it. Like people, when they heard about, because they heard me do the manifestation and the work I did with her, and then they saw that she met somebody, got engaged, got married, and suddenly it was like, okay, what did you do? I want a piece of that. And that's
Yeah.
really how I became kind of known for this kind of work, which is helping women release all the love blocks that are getting in their way of manifesting their soulmate. And over the course of kind of the amount of I've worked with over 5,000 women, and I found that there are specific patterns that I see over and over again. And when I kind of went back into all the different clients I've worked with, the research I've done, I discovered that there are really just five specific love blocks. Of course, everyone's got some variations of that, but five main ones that I see over and over again that seem to stop people from being with the right partner, with the one, that essentially is their forever love. And
Yeah.
so this is what I do now is I help women who are single, who are high achieving, who might be doing really well in every other aspect of their life, but love is just kind of the area that just doesn't work, or it's tricky, or it creates a lot of stress. And I end up working with them to get them to a point where, they are exactly who they need to be to
Yeah.
attract the kind of love that they want in their life. And a
Right.
lot of this has to do with uncovering the love blocks and overcoming this and releasing whatever is getting in their way of getting to that goal.
Right. Right. Wow. Now, I know block number one is the fear of vulnerability. Now, what does this block look like in everyday relationships, and how can someone spot it in themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best way for me to answer your question, Stacey, is to talk about my own love block, right?
Okay.
And so I'm going to give you a little peek into my own life, which is that I would constantly attract partners who were emotionally unavailable, or they had, a broken heart from someone who hurt them deeply, and because of that, they were emotionally unavailable. But whatever it was, there was always some kind of reason for why they couldn't commit to me,
Yeah.
and I was always making excuses for why they couldn't. And I thought I would be the one to change them.
Yeah.
And I was caught up in that whole story until I realized, wait a minute, why am I always the one
Yeah.
who is in the middle of that story where, you know, I am with the emotionally unavailable partner, the partner who can't commit to me for whatever reason there is, right?
Right.
So it's obviously not them. It must be me because I keep attracting the same situation. And
Hmm.
that's when I realized that the commitment issue wasn't theirs. I kept
Yeah.
blaming them and thinking they were the problem. And I
Hmm.
finally took ownership that it wasn't them, it was me. I was the problem. And that's when I started digging into, well, why is that something that keeps coming up for me? Where is this coming from? And what I discovered is that my own childhood experiences taught me
Hmm.
to fear love more than it did to kind of feel safe and comfortable with it. And so, as much as I wanted to be in a fulfilling, happy relationship with someone, deep down inside, I was scared of it. Right. So, it was so much easier to attract someone who was emotionally unavailable, who would never commit to me, who would
Yeah.
never, put me in a situation where that was it. We were going to be together forever. It was
Right.
easier to blame them than to say I was the one afraid of it. And
Right.
that one realization just completely turned me around and taught me that every time we think the problem is outside of us, it really isn't. It
Yeah.
usually means we are the problem. And it's about kind of taking ownership and recognizing how I am contributing to that situation.
Yeah.
Recognizing that the commitment phobe wasn't everybody else, it was me. I was
Yeah.
afraid of commitment, and therefore I attracted partners who had commitment issues. I mean, that really taught me and helped me realize that the work had to be done in myself. And as I started to explore and understand why I was so afraid of love, okay, and started to heal all of that, I actually met someone at a wedding. We spent 4 days together. And a week later, I knew Stacey. I know this sounds crazy, but like I knew I'm going to marry this guy. And a month later, he proposed. It was like the shortest relationship I had ever been in my life. Okay. And I said yes. He asked me to marry him a month after we met. And I
Yeah.
said yes, because I knew that this is the guy I'm going to marry. But it took a lot of just confronting my own fears, admitting to myself that the problem wasn't them, it was me. taking
Yeah.
responsibility and recognizing that was my love block that had been pushing my happily ever after kind of story away from me. And so when I kind of cracked that code, when I realized that I was the problem, not them, and I
Yeah.
started to work on that problem, I
Hmm.
met this amazing person who I have now been married to for 15 years. We have three
Wow.
beautiful kids together, and you know, it's been over a decade and a half, and I still feel like I am the most important person in his life. I am loved more than I could have ever imagined.
Wow.
And I am also very much, you know, in love with my own self. So I'm in a
Right.
situation where love is really the center of my universe.
Right.
And so my own journey, put that together with all the other women I've worked with, has taught me that for all the single women out there, because I was one of you, I was one of them, right? It really is about going inward and figuring out why you won't let yourself have the partner that you want. And it's always you. It's always about doing that work that is within you and not allowing yourself to have what you want. So I've discovered that there are five main love blocks. And when you become honest with yourself, I have a quiz actually that tells you what your love block is, that you can figure out and understand what you need to heal, what you need to let go of to finally bring love back into your life. That's my very long-winded answer to your
Mm.
very short and on point question.
So, how did you crack the code? Because sometimes it's very difficult. You know there's an issue, but you don't know where it's coming from because either you've been in many relationships or you've had problems, from way back when. Because some people, even relationships could stem from your childhood years too. Things could have happened in your family life that had an impact on you. And even subconsciously, you might not even realize that the huge impact it had. And then all of a sudden, when you start trying to have relationships, boom, there's a problem. You don't know what it is, or you've been in bad relationships and they've left a mark and you have fear, or you self-doubt, or you don't think you're worthy, because of whatever went on. There's so many factors you can play. How were you able to crack the code for your own personal life?
Yeah, I love that question, Stacey. And I think it really comes down to the fact that we spend so much time looking at other people, looking at
Yes.
their behavior, what they do or do not do, how they disappointed you, how they didn't measure up, and how they made you feel. And
Hmm.
really, what made the shift for me is to look at myself and
Hmm.
try to understand, why was I inviting the same kind of situation, partner, and emotions over and over again. So I'm a big believer that nothing in your life is random, right?
Hmm.
And no situation is really unique. You've
Yeah.
probably experienced it before, not
Mhm.
once, but repeatedly. And so
Yeah.
if I were to look at my love life or any of the, clients that I work with, there are patterns. And these patterns tell our story. Okay. They
Yeah.
explain why we choose certain situations, why
Mhm.
we show up the way we do, why we respond or react the way we do. And it goes back to, how we've understood and experienced love as children. It goes
Yeah.
back to the kind of relationship we saw our parents share with each other. Is
Hmm.
it something you want to move toward, or is it like, oh my God, I do not want to do that, and therefore I'm going to be afraid of love? Right.
Hmm.
So, really understanding who we are today in the context of what events shaped us in childhood. So,
Yeah.
the inner child perspective and the childhood wounds that we carry, whether that's a mother or a father wound, the events, essentially, the traumatic events that have
Yeah.
shaped us today, have a lot of weight in the choices that we make today. They carry a lot of weight. So, really, the work I do is helping women understand why they make the choices they do, why they end up in situations they do, why they repeat the same patterns, and
Yeah.
how we can shift that, how we can
Mhm.
take responsibility, how we can shift that. I think what worked for me, Stacey, was recognizing that the problem isn't them. it's me. And this
Right.
is something I share with people that I work with, that
Mhm.
if you are going to outsource the problem to everybody else, they're to blame, it's their fault, you can't do anything about it. You're stuck, right?
Mhm.
But if you take ownership, and if it's, well, I've contributed to this, or I'm responsible in some way, then I can change it, right? I can
Yeah.
do something about it, right? And so really the win, the reward of taking responsibility and ownership, which doesn't always feel great, isn't
Yeah.
always easy, is that now you have a shot at shifting it, at changing it, at recognizing that I could probably do something about this. So for me,
Yeah.
the first step is really taking accountability and responsibility. Two,
Mhm.
looking at all the patterns that you've been repeating, because that's not a coincidence.
Right.
And if you have the same situation repeating, it's not them, it's you.
Right.
And then third, why is that showing up in my life? Where did it
Mhm.
come from? What do I need to learn so I can stop doing this? I can
Right.
stop repeating this. And I know I'm making it sound kind of simple,
Mhm.
and it really is, but it requires a lot of deep inner work.
Right.
But when you do it, it just essentially it changes the way you show up in your relationships, not
Right.
just in the dating process, but in everything you do after that to make your relationship work.
Oh,
It's everything.
it is. It is 100%. Now, block number two is unresolved past wounds. How do old hurts sneak into our connections, and what's the first step to releasing them?
Yeah, beautiful question. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you all the five love blocks, if that's okay, Stacey,
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
because I think a lot of people would see themselves in these blocks and say, oh my God,
Yeah.
that is me.
Hmm.
And what I do want to say, well, before I go into the block, is every block tells a story and
Yes.
has a very different path and route to healing. All right.
Yes.
So I talked a little bit about the commitment phobe. This is like, how you know you're the commitment phobe is when you have partners that are emotionally unavailable
Hmm.
or they have commitment issues of some kind. Okay.
Yeah.
And what you end up doing when you are the commitment phobe love block is you push away the people who love you, who care, and you are attracted to the ones that are like more difficult, the ones that
Yeah.
you won't easily get. You feel
Hmm.
safer keeping a distance in your relationship, and you essentially want to avoid being hurt, abandoned, or rejected.
Hmm.
And you ultimately have this kind of situation where it feels like you're pining for someone else, but in
Yeah.
reality, you're happier being apart than being in a relationship.
Right.
Okay. So that's a commitment phobe. The second one is a people pleaser. The people pleaser is someone who's probably been raised to think that they have to please other people in order to be loved, in order to be taken care of. So you think that love means you should make other people happy. You
Right.
change yourself to fit what someone else wants. You seek
Hmm.
approval. You want to be kind of somebody else's definition, but along
Yeah.
the way, you lose your own identity.
Hmm.
And you also become the type of partner that people take for granted because you have
Yes.
no identity, right? You just become what they need you to be. All
Exactly.
right. Third one is the Runaway Bride. And I don't know if you remember, there was a Julia Roberts movie
Yeah.
of,
Hmm.
yeah. So that's kind of what it's inspired by. But it's the idea that you believe love is hard, it's painful, it's risky, it's something that hasn't been easy for you in the past.
Yeah.
So what you do is you you kind of get into relationships, but then every time it goes to the next level or it gets more like more intimate, you pull back because
Yeah.
ultimately, like you're, you know, you're not so comfortable moving forward. You're afraid of being hurt. You're kind of ready to run at the first sign of something wrong. You avoid love because you want to protect yourself from any pain or disappointment. And you often also find it hard to be vulnerable or intimate with people And as much as you say, I want a partner, I want to be in love, you run away from it. And so you sabotage your relationships. That's the runaway bride. The fourth one is the caretaker. I see this a lot in Asian cultures.
Hmm.
It's when you take on the responsibility of other people's happiness. You feel like other people's needs are more important than your
Yeah.
own. It might be because you had to take care of your siblings, your mother, your father, whatever family circumstances you grew up in. You
Yeah.
took on the role of the caretaker. And
Hmm.
so you keep thinking that everybody else's, life is more important than you, and you have to take care of them. So love is sacrifice.
Yeah.
And you might attract partners you have to take care of, which is great.
Hmm.
But when they don't need you anymore, when they're kind of taken care of, they've become stronger, they leave you because they don't
Yeah.
need you.
Right.
Okay. And then we've got the very last love block, which is the memory chaser.
Hmm.
This is where you're holding on to a past relationship. It might be something like that in your mind was the perfect relationship, but clearly it wasn't because you broke up, right? So you're
Hmm.
like always thinking about the one that got away, or you keep comparing any new person to the ex, even though the ex wasn't perfect, but in your
Yeah.
head, you've made the ex perfect. You get
Yeah.
stuck on the what if. What if it had worked out? What if I did it differently? What if I didn't do this? What if I didn't do that? And so
Yeah.
you never give new love a chance. You're
Right.
constantly comparing the love of the past to any
Mhm.
present opportunities. So these kinds of love blocks, Stacey, they get in the way of you being able to really give your heart truly to someone.
Yeah.
Okay. And you create the same kind of negative patterns that take you away from what you want, which is, a healthy, loving relationship with someone who knows your worth and value. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're single, if you're single and you would like to be in a relationship, it's very simple. You're just not allowing yourself to. It's
Yeah.
not somebody else's fault. It's not bad luck. It's not karma. It's not, any other reason. If you're
Right.
single and you want to be with someone, it's because you're not allowing yourself to, because one of these love blocks is keeping you stuck.
Yes. Makes total sense. I was thinking of different people and how I see those traits, those love blocks in a lot of different people who struggle with relationships. Now, can you share a client story where they overcame one of these blocks and it completely changed their life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually working with someone right now. And she was raised by a mother who, you know, so her mom has two kids.
Hmm.
One kid required a lot more attention.
Hmm.
Okay. He had a lot more challenges. And so as a child, she was always overlooked and neglected because the other kid had a lot more problems.
Right.
Okay. And so my client has always felt like the second choice,
Yeah.
like she's never prioritized because that's
Hmm.
how things were growing up.
Right.
Okay. Now she grows up into a woman who constantly attracts partners who, guess what?
Hmm.
They never put her first. They
Yeah.
never prioritize her. She's always second to work, second to something else. And she always feels like she's never chosen. Now,
Right.
it might feel like it's the men she dates, but in
Yeah.
reality, all she's doing is repeating the definition of love that she has known from childhood.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's actually runaway bride.
Hmm.
She's so afraid that the the more she gets closer to love, the more likely she is to be hurt. Because
Yeah.
that's what her experience of love was in childhood.
Right.
Now I'm working with her, and as we're clearing all these different childhood wounds, all this pain, all this trauma, she's starting to get a lot more confidence in herself. There's more clarity, more understanding. And the most beautiful shift or transformation I've seen is I think she came into the sessions with me, into the work, thinking
Hmm.
everybody else was the problem.
Right.
And she finally understands that none of this is happening for the first time. It's just a story she's been repeating for the longest time.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in the midst of working, but I have worked with countless women where, somebody else comes to mind where her mom, one of my clients, her mom was bipolar and she spent her entire life taking care of her mom. So she's the caretaker. She's the caretaker of love block. And so she
Right.
always picks men that she has to take care of until they don't need her. And then she's left kind of abandoned or like feeling like that she was used or taken advantage of. And we had
Yeah.
to go back and heal all of that. And today she is in the most loving relationship with the kind of partner she's never ever had before.
Yeah.
And her relationship with her mother actually completely turned around as well. We didn't mean to do that. She came to me to help with her love life, but she also got her mother back as a result. And so many things in her life resolved and healed. And her goal was to find a partner. She's in her mid 30s. Her goal was just like, I'm tired of just being heartbroken in love. And now
Yeah.
she's with this most amazing partner. And it's due credit to like all the work she did to clear all those past patterns. So this is
Yeah.
something I see all the time, Stacey, is when you become clear about why you're facing certain situations over and again, what your patterns are, when you become
Yeah.
clear, when you see them for what they are, and you go back to why they've been created that way, and then you heal it and release it, you can
Yes.
kind of create a completely different experience of love. And ultimately, my desire is to help women find the kind of soulmate love, your one true forever love, like all that, all the romantic words to
Yeah.
describe that, the one, right? That's what I specialize in. Like, if you want to just date, I'm not your girl, right?
Yeah.
I am about that kind of love that makes everything worth it. That's the
Right.
kind of love that I help you find. And what I do is help you release everything that's getting in the way
I
of
love that.
creating or attracting that.
I love that. I love that. Now, if someone could tackle just one block this week, which one would you give them the biggest breakthrough and why should they begin?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way I would recommend this be approached, Stacey, is to start just looking at the patterns in your life. What
Hmm.
do I see happening over and over again?
Hmm.
Just ask the question
Right.
and entertain the idea that the problem is not them and it just might be you.
Hmm.
And I think that is the biggest breakthrough you can have is when you
Yeah.
take complete ownership and responsibility. Now, I'm going to make it really easy for your listeners. If they want to figure out what block is stopping them, I do have a quiz. And I have to say that I have never met someone who did not relate to the answer they got on their quiz, who didn't
Right.
tell me that, Sanaiyah, oh my God, this is me.
Yeah.
So the quiz can be found on my website. It's sanaiyahgurnamal.com forward
Mhm.
slash love dash blocks dash quiz. And I'm sure you're going to put in the show notes, but take the quiz. And that will tell you a lot about what you are attracting or creating in your life.
Hmm.
And just having that awareness, Stacey, that, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. And this is
Yeah.
probably why I'm doing it. And this
Right.
is what I could change. And I give you
Yeah.
a lot of baby steps that you can do on your own,
Right.
just to have a clear understanding of why
Right.
your love life is not on track, right? Just
Yeah.
that, awareness is already kind of the first step in the right direction. And
Right.
then responsibility is now giving you power. Because if you
Right.
take responsibility, I can do something about it,
Yes.
right? And then from there, just starting to ask yourself questions that you might never have even done before,
Right.
And I also offer kind of a call if you'd like to learn a little bit more about your love block and how it's playing out.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you lots of different, resources from journaling prompts and meditations to just explore this aspect of your life. Because I will tell you something. I thought life was just meant to be difficult. I
Right.
thought life was like this for everybody.
Yeah.
And then when I started to do the work and the healing, I realized it doesn't have to be that hard, that I
Yep.
was making it hard for myself,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
as I started to take more control, responsibility, and ownership for all the
Mm-hmm.
negative in my life, I was able to kind of move it into something that was working for me.
Right.
And when I attracted the right partner into my life, and by the way, I have to say, it only took me a couple of months. All right. And a couple of months for my manifestation, and maybe less than a week from this major realization that I had the commitment foam template.
Yeah.
Okay. For me to meet this most amazing person at a wedding. I know,
Mm.
so cliche. I never thought I would do the whole cliche thing, but oh my God, I met my partner at a wedding.
Yeah.
I knew 4 days later I'm going to marry him. And he really asked me to marry him in a month. And even though it was the shortest relationship I've ever had in my life, I said yes because I knew he was the one. That kind of clarity, confidence, and safety is not something that you find easily, right? And
Yeah.
we've been married 15 years.
I
And
love it.
I have to say, Stacey, there's not a day that goes by that I don't feel like I am so lucky and I am so blessed and I'm with the person that is so right for me.
Right. Oh, I
So it
love.
is it is possible. You just got to clear everything that's getting in the way of that. I truly believe that. And I've seen that with the clients I've worked with people over and over again. Get rid of
Right.
your blocks and you'll get there.
I love it. Now, if we were going to take today's conversation and we were going to look at today's conversation, what are some things you really like to emphasize to the listeners before we end this conversation that you really want them to go home and really remember it and take in?
Yeah, I love that question. The first thing I would like you to remember is the problem is almost never them,
Mhm.
right? It's never outside of you. It is you. Now, I'm not trying to make you feel bad about yourself, but
Mhm.
I am trying to give you the keys to kind of unlock your potential,
Yes.
your possibilities for yourself. So taking responsibility and accepting that I have a role to play, I've created this in some way, allows you to change it.
Right.
The second thing I want you to take out of today's conversation is that um, there's nothing wrong with you.
Mhm.
Okay. You are a product of what you witnessed growing up, what you experienced, like everything that you saw about love that has
Mhm.
formed your understanding of it is just something that was an experience and it can be changed. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that way, right? So if you saw your parents fighting all the time over money, or love was painful because your mom was always miserable with your dad, that doesn't have to be your life,
Exactly.
right? You can learn the lessons that you need to learn so you don't have to repeat those experiences.
Yes. Oh, I
And
agree.
yeah. And the third thing I want you to remember is how you love yourself is how you teach other people to love you.
Yes.
So your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship of all. And really, I have always stressed with the people I work with that self love, how much you love yourself, will determine how much your partner loves you.
Yes.
Okay. And the more you love yourself, the more loved you will be in
Yes.
every aspect of your life. So
Under.
I have a podcast called Project Loving Myself because
Mhm.
ultimately it is about your relationship with yourself. That is the most important relationship.
Yeah.
And that is what sets the tone for all your relationships. So start
Right.
with yourself, heal your past, take responsibility. And I truly believe that you can be loved the way you deserve, the way you want, okay?
Hmm.
And the way that every woman should be.
I love it. I love it. So true. So true. Now, what services do you provide that people should know about, and where can they find those services?
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Stacey. So I work with women one on one and also in a group format. I have a program called the Soulmate Magnet, where that is literally our goal is to turn you into a soulmate magnet, so that
Yes.
you attract the right partner for you. And like I said before, I'm not talking about just dating. I'm
Mhm.
talking about like the one you want to live your life with. That's
Yes.
the kind of commitment that I'm really helping you get to.
Hmm.
My one-on-one program means I work with you to eliminate your blocks, but I also have a group format that allows you to do it with other people if that is a format that feels more comfortable with you. I also work with people on self-love as something they might want to achieve. I work with women who are struggling in their existing relationships and either they need to figure out if they need to stay or go,
Hmm.
or they want to figure out how to turn that relationship around. So I do
Yes.
some coaching on, I call it relationship reboot coaching. It's kind of like, do I take my relationship to the next level? What do
Yep.
I do with it? So I work with women on that. And finally, I also work on um, purpose. I work on mindset blocks. I
Hmm.
literally work on everything that is getting in the way of you living the life that you want for yourself.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Wonderful. And tell everybody one more time where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you. So SanaiyahGurnamal.com is my website, and you will find me on all social channels. So on YouTube, I do a lot of videos on YouTube. On Instagram, you'll find me hanging out there. And it's always at Sanaiyah Gurnamal.
Hmm.
So it's across the board. You can drop me a DM. I have lots of different things that I think you would really enjoy watching or getting, but most importantly, the Love Blocks quiz. I mean, whether you're single, you're in a relationship, or you're kind of done with all of that, I really think you need to take the quiz because it will reveal a lot about what you're creating when it comes to your relationship with other people, but also your relationship with yourself.
I love it. I love it. This has been wonderful, Sanaya. I thank you so much for being on the show today. And, it's so important that people learn how to love others, to figure out what's the blockage, if they're struggling in a relationship or they're struggling trying to find a healthy relationship. And it's so important to have that self-care and that self-love because so many. I can't tell you how many hundreds of women I talk to that lack self-care and lack self-love in their life. So I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm so glad that you came up with these blocks intentionally or unintentionally. I'm glad you came up with them and that you've helped thousands of women through, these blocks. And I really want to commend you because like we talked about before the show, everybody needs love. And I'm so glad that you're out there to help people who struggle and feel stuck and that can't find the love they really deserve. So thank you for what you do. I appreciate you.
Thank you too, Stacey. I thank you for being you for this platform and for the work that you were doing to also help other people on this.
Oh, thank you so much. And I want you to have a wonderful, well, I should say night, because where you are right now, it's nighttime. So have a
Yeah.
wonderful night. And I thank you so much for your time.